Hello. So, gotta watch the time. I spent an hour making a video yesterday talking to it, and YouTube wouldn't fucking let me upload it unless it was 15 minutes long without a phone number, and they ain't getting shit from me. So, the subject of the video was, well, the subject wasn't astral projection per se, it was something like, it was more to do with an experience I had once on my very last astral projection that I had when I lived in Brixton. Something happened which made me think about something to do with this place called Earth, whatever. Whether there's any insights to be gleaned from anybody listening or not, I don't know. You can decide for yourself. No doubt you will. So it was just something I felt called to talk about. I don't know why. I just... I've watched, there's been a lot of sort of a kind of a resurgence in interest in Gnostic kind of thought these days, I've noticed on YouTube and various social media things. It's a very interesting subject. I know there's a lot of Christians would probably consider the Gnostic side of things to be a heresy. Excuse me. Jesus, man, none of us were there. We have to play with the ideas. And then they, as to use the wisdom of the Bible, and by their fruits shall you know them. You know, you have to test the spirits. So, yeah. I suppose I might have to split this into several parts because it does get a bit... I can ramble a bit. It's not that it gets a bit. I get a bit. So, it all kind of started about 20 years ago, 1996. That's when it really... I moved into a flat in Brixton. And my girlfriend and I at the time lived in a shared house with 5 other people, which was a whole other story. I'll make more videos, I can explain. Brixton was a wild time for me in many ways, not just one way. But anyway, we met in this house. And then we became a couple while living together as tenants in this house, shared house. And then we moved out of that house together and got a flat together. And that's the flat I'm talking about. So, my landlord, it was a weird situation actually. He lived in Hong Kong. And I was speaking to him from a phone box on Brixton Hill, Hong Kong. He gave me a particular time to be standing at the phone box and a particular phone number. I don't know, I can't even remember how we worked it out. But I had to speak to him from Hong Kong in a phone box on Brixton Hill to do with getting the flat. And yeah, it all went well. We got the flat and we moved in, and I lived there for about 5 years. Vanessa, my girlfriend at the time, she moved out after, I think it was after 3 years. We kind of split up, got back together again. She moved back to Brighton, and then later on, I moved down to Brighton to be with her. A whole other story again. And, but anyway, I remember, like, have you ever walked into somewhere and just felt death? Well, that's what I felt when I walked into that flat. I won't say where it is in case, I don't know, I don't want to prejudice anybody's if somebody's living there right now and watches this video, they're going to be like, shit. But I even said to Vanessa when we got outside and we were on our way home, that place just reeks of death. I can't explain it. I can't explain it. And okay, I was like, at that time, I wasn't a seeker at all. Brixton is what turned me into a seeker. That flat, the experiences I had over the next 5 years in that flat are what turned me into a seeker on a spiritual path, if you like. But until that point, I'd just been a musician, worked in a couple of studios, played in loads of bands, was roadieing for bands, the usual shit. Treating my body more like a nightclub than a temple, which was fine. As long as you get good shit. So eventually we moved in, and it became apparent, like, we clocked something a bit weird when we first, like, even before we moved in, when we were moving our stuff in. And it had obviously been a while since anybody had lived there, because there was like the way damp hangs in the air of a flat that's been uninhabited for a while? It was a bit like that. So while we were moving our stuff in, we would turn on the gas fires and we never made a connection. But we would find ourselves, like, we'd arrive there, like, full of beans, ready to go, move in our stuff. And then within 10 minutes of turning on the fire, we'd be wiped out. Just sitting on the sofa looking at each other going, should we call it a day? And we'd arrived like 15 minutes earlier, ready to go. Checking the time. So, it's hard to, there's so many strands to this story. It's really hard to know which one to pick up and run with first. So bear with me a little until I sort of muddle my way through, and it'll eventually work itself out in some way. But yeah, and then it transpired. Obviously when we moved in May, so it was summertime. We didn't have the fires on, so it was the autumn before we really, before things really got weird in terms of the gas anyway, because I think it was Vanessa who first noticed it, who actually made the connection between what we were feeling and the gas. And we arranged for Transco, the gas company, to come and check the flat out. And I remember the Transco guy, a real London guy, walking around with his meter, testing all the gas appliances in the flat. And he'd be like walking around going like, mate, how the fuck are you still alive, mate? How the fuck are you still alive? No, it ain't funny, mate. This ain't funny. And he was really animated about it, because it turned out that literally every gas fire, my gas cooker, every gas appliance in the entire flat was leaking carbon monoxide. Yeah. So that all got sorted out. But, I kind of, that's the previous tenant. We found out later. I'll have to add this because I kind of, I didn't know which thread to pick up. I ran with the wrong one. Well, not a wrong one, just a different one than I should have. But after we'd lived in the flat for quite some time and all this gas stuff had been sorted out and everything, we found out the previous tenant had actually died in there. And possibly, if I'm not mistaken, committed suicide. I think. I can't be sure. But, or maybe that was my own feeling. But by the time when you walk into a flat cold and you just go, whoa, I feel death, and then you find out that the previous tenant died in there, I kind of go with my feelings after that, you know? And I could even tell, I say tell, my feeling. I couldn't say for sure, but I could even tell in my mind which room and which corner of which room she hung herself in. Yeah. And I don't know why. That was what I felt. I just got a very strong feeling that she hung herself in the living room, because there was a trapdoor. That's the thing I was looking for, the name. There was a trapdoor in one corner of the living room, and if you opened it, there was beams. And I really feel she hung herself from there. But that's just conjecture on my part. So I'll fast forward past a lot of stuff, and I'll fill in the gaps with other videos if I need to. I'll get to the point so I don't bore the shit out of anybody and my time doesn't go crazy. And it's nearly there. Jesus Christ, man, I haven't even fucking started. Where was it going? Yes. So anyway, astral projections. That was the whole point of this. My dream life just kicked off into fucking another stratosphere. I started going from somebody who, yeah, I had dreams a few occasionally, yeah. I went from someone who had dreams to someone who had a lot of dreams, to someone who had lucid dreams, to someone who astrally projected multiple times per night for about 3 or 4 years. I was doing a lot of meditation at the time as well. I'll maybe get into a bit of that as well, certain techniques I was using at the time. But I'll say techniques, it really wasn't. The technique I used that I found was the most profound actually is a lack of technique. It's getting out of your own way. Another video. So my very last astral projection that I remember having in that flat was the one that really sets up what I'm trying to talk about today. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what to do because I'm very near the time. How much time have I got? Yeah, I'll tell you what, that was the introduction. I'm sorry. More is coming, I promise. I promise.